So the next thing we're going to talk about is a couple of Siege figures, some leftovers from the Siege figures that we didn't talk about already. Some of the more smaller scale stuff. We're going to talk about Springer and some of the newer images that have surfaced now of him in person at the show. And we're going to talk about some interesting engineering from our new Commander figure. So to start with, first we're going to talk about Siege Smashdown and Caliburst. Now this comes from their smaller scale of bots that exist in the Siege line. We'll talk about Smashdown first. Smashdown is a new character, not based off of anything that's existed prior. He turns into a Minotaur, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Part of me, when I first saw this, like before really reading into it, I was like, oh, it's a bull, and his name is Smashdown. Is that some kind of nod to Smackdown with The Rock and the Brahma Bull? I don't know.
Maybe. He did voice
Cliff Jumper.
Cliff Jumper in the first episode of Transformers Prime, so maybe.
I almost felt like is there's
You're reaching that hard for it?
I don't know. I just thought like maybe they didn't have the rights to SmackDown. They probably don't. And they were just like, oh, and we could put a bull, and then people could read into that all they want. But I mean, it's an original character. It's a cool design. I mean, and it's red too, like Cliff Jumper. I don't know, red and blue. Who knows? Who knows? But I just really dig that. I
thought the way your mind went, you're gonna be like, and then you ran into your collection and you pulled out your bandolier for Battle Beasts. That's what I thought you were gonna say, and you're like, oh, the other way.
I don't. You know what's funny? Like I didn't even really think of Battle Beasts. It's cool that they went with like a mythical creature. I mean, that's something usually the Terracons or something would really have, but this is it's cool, and it turns into a hammer. And it has again the traditional Siege like accessories, action accessories to put on it. So he's really cool. This is something that's I like that. Still within the Generations line, once in a while you could throw out a unique original character to work within the ecology and the play pattern of this line. So he's one of the new Battlemasters.
I actually like it a lot.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I think the only thing I think is missing from it is an extended like handle. So like maybe a third party could like kind of just you would stick the other part of the handle in the bottom of their fist and it'll just come out a little bit just to make it look like it's a longer handle.
Well, it does have a peg at the end of it. So.
I mean it has a peg. So like I'm looking at the image of Springer, and so like it pegs into the top, but what I'm saying is like another part to peg into the bottom to make the handle look longer.
Oh, well, that's
all.
That's what I mean. I think that the purpose of that peg, if third-party companies want, is they could build an extension piece that attaches to it. The whole point of that extended peg actually is because the peg itself probably is for 3mm ports, and then the larger portion of it could work for 5mm ports, which is for like larger leader class figures, so that it still technically works with both. At least that's my assumption. But this is really cool. I really like this. I like a new character. I like that it's it has turns into a hammer, so it's a more melee weapon accessory. Then we have Caliburst. The only thing that's confusing with this one is that Caliburst originally was Slug Slinger's Target Master back in Generation 1. And the colors on Caliburst originally were like a light blue with a red face and stuff. And they kind of went with, a color scheme that really isn't that at all. But, I guess it's just they're just trying to roll out a whole bunch of Micromasters, right? Not Micromasters, Target Masters right now to just fill out that whole price point and have a whole bunch of stuff that transforms into guns, have stuff that also have energy weapon accessories. So, it's still cool. It's still awesome that they did that. It's not super Generation 1 accurate. I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, like, Takara's going to grab this mold and then do it proper. It wouldn't surprise me. But so he's also an addition. Not as exciting because we already started with guns in this Battlemaster Siege, concept. So those ones are not as exciting, but Smashdown at least here is really cool. To go on to the other thing, so we also got Springer, and we got some in-person images now from the show, and we got a really good look at his third mode, his car mode. Now, some speculation is some of it is still kind of mistransformed, or some of it is it's not so much that it's mistransformed, it's that it's just not presented in the most appealing way, meaning like it's in car mode, but they put the guns on it, or they put the helicopter blades on it just to like store it on there somewhere so it doesn't look as nice.
Right.
Part of me has to remind people that the original Springer, driving around in that car mode it's always been kind of absent in the fiction. In that, like, you know, in the original 86 movie, you only see it for, like, very quickly when he's fighting Wreck-Ar, and you don't really get a good look at it, but it clearly is some kind of a Cybertronian vehicle that doesn't follow any kind of rules of how it has to look.
True.
And then when you look at, you know, even the original Generation 1 toy, it's always been, you know, I always say that with the exception of maybe, no, even Astro Chain, but in general, every triple changer always has one weaker alt mode. Like there's always one that looks really like what it's supposed to be, and then there's one that looks like an alt mode with that other alt mode tacked on. Like I always say, like you look at Broadside and you go like, wow, what a really cool carrier mode. And then you look at his jet mode, and then it's like, wow, what a really cool jet that has carrier mode pieces on it. And it's the same thing. Even Astro Train I've always felt is like one of the best triple changers. But amazing train mode, and then you have a shuttle mode that had like, oh, there's the robot all over it, you know, like the robot mode design. So there's always a weakness somewhere.
Right.
But it's just, I think that in this case, it's the same thing where Springer doesn't really suffer too much from a weak alt mode in that it's just you have two alt modes that look very similar to each other in both modes. Where you look at the helicopter and you see the car, you look at the car and you could see the helicopter.
Yeah.
So
like the only thing I see the difference is the rudder.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the car mode, the rudder is kind of like split into two and it kind of chunks out a bit.
That was literally the G1 toy. The G1
but
toy
I was hoping that maybe like you see that top part where the rudder would go, like it flips back and then you get like two little fins going up, two little spoiler fins. But I don't know if it was translated properly or if it wasn't.
I think it's still kind of mistransformed a little bit.
I'm hoping that. That's what I'm really, really hoping.
I think that those legs probably need to be widened out a little more, you know, to kind of like, you know, to me a car from front to back is always even. You know what I mean? And it kind of like, you know, for wind resistance and stuff like that. And at least in the case of past Springer toys, that has been the case, where at least the alt mode would have some kind of evenness. Right. I don't know. I think that part of it is mistransformed. Part of it is, you know, tacking on all the guns and stuff and everything onto that third mode. Looks, you know, it doesn't make it as appealing to a lot of fans who are looking at it for the first time. But otherwise, he looks spectacular. He looks really good. This is what a lot of people have been waiting for. I know that on the message boards, it became an utter absolute flame war over this one.
Oh no.
Yeah, people were just going like, it was either my Thrilling 31 is way better, or this one's way better, or people going like, I'm not getting rid of my third party one, that's better. And then people going like, yeah, you keep your third party, it's garbage.
Oh,
you know, and it was just people fighting. Fighting like crazy.
Can't we all just play with all the toys, guys?
Why can't people just like something? You know, like it's like,
you know, I want to play with my toys, guys.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Like it was just like you were not allowed to have an opinion on this one because whatever your opinion was, it was wrong. And here's why. And oh, by the way, I hate you, and I hope you lose your collection in a fire. You know, like
my goodness,
it was really, it was no just do not go on TFW 2005 and read the comment. It was just like it got a little like, you know, I don't even know how to.
I will fight you.
I will fight you over this piece of plastic. It was pretty bad. On a lighter note, we also had some video that was around, that was kicking around from RFC and a few other sources. People were walking around the deal room and recording footage of John Warden explaining some of the engineering of Jetfire. And one thing that was really cool, well, I'll mention some of the lesser stuff. So one thing they pointed out was Jetfire, when he's in jet mode, he actually has these like little hangers that could come out from under him.
These little handles.
That could reenact. I believe it was not Fire in the Sky. I think it was another episode. I want to say Transport to Oblivion, where some of the mini bots would like latch onto the bottom of him and he would pick them up, because at the time he was the only Autobot flyer vehicle, so he would like be their transport in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, again, giving that old Generation 1 cartoon accuracy and giving something that you could still do that. So it has a 3mm peg that smaller characters could latch onto him and hang from him. Another thing that was cool is they were pointing out how when you attach that armor that goes onto him, there's kind of an auto transform gimmick where the old head kind of automatically tucks in, which is really cool. Another thing also was apparently the cockpit of the jet mode opens up and you could remove the details of the inside of that cockpit, and then it makes room for a Titan Master to fit in, which is pretty cool too. Again, not necessary, but I mean, another extra play pattern that didn't have to be there, but it's there and it doesn't hinder the toy. And
go on.
Go on what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, I think the last part, which I think you were going to say, was that his insignia could flip from Autobot to Decepticon.
That's not what I was going to talk about. There's another thing too.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that's another thing also. He also has the Autobot Decepticon change, which is cool. Again, that is from Fire in the Sky, the episode where originally he had an Autobot logo, and then at the end of the episode he like rips it off, and then he's holding he had a Decepticon logo, he rips it off, and then he's holding a shining Autobot logo, and then he just like attaches it to his chest. So that's a nice little cool.
Which ends up playing into Beast Wars, I find.
Well, Beast Wars had that like later on.
It's like there's much more than being not a Decepticon, a Predacon, but just changing your insignia. You got to show us what you could do.
Well, and again,
I thought that was a good point.
That was a gimmick that the toy gimmick of faction swapping has existed prior with other toys, whether it be again Beast Wars Dinobot, his I don't want to say terrible, but not that great Generations toy that he got all those years ago. I think it was Universe 2.0.
Okay.
It had a faction swapping gimmick where it was a little square that you could flip over and have an Autobot, Maxable or Predacon logo. And even the Long Arm toy from Animated had that too, where you could flip. It's a little square that you could flip over. I know a few others had that too, but so it's cool that he has that also. And then finally, the most interesting part about it, and I've never seen this ever done before, and it's really a Takara Hasbro original, was when his hand is open, it's like an open hand. And when you slowly close the hand to close the fist, a hidden flip out, I think it's a 5mm peg comes out so that it could hold accessories and weapons. Yeah. I've never seen that done before.
I thought that was really cool. I was like, what?
I've never, ever seen that done before, ever. I mean, when you're talking even like masterpieces and high-end stuff that has, hand articulation. I mean, we go back as far as like, figures like, let's say, MP09 Rodimus, where he had these hands that had a very difficult time holding his accessories. So what they had to do is they had to put like a slit on the inside of his palm, and every gun and weapon just had a peg on the side of the handle, and you just kind of had to like side peg it into the hand. Otherwise, the toy wouldn't be able to hold it, because it was these nice articulated hands. But the biggest flaw is they were kind of flimsy and they couldn't hold weapons properly. So I think they were kind of in this situation where like, well, we want to have like nice articulated hands. It's this Commander price point, so it's larger, so we have more pieces, we have more parts. We can make this thing larger. But we also wanted that, it could hold the weapons properly. And maybe during testing and stuff, they, when they were tooling the figure, they're like, oh my God, he's having problems holding his gun or whatever. And they probably didn't want to have, again, that side slit where the gun just pegs in the side. Yeah. So they were like, how do we work around this? And I've never seen anything like it, but that's really cool. That is
very smart.
That is really, really cool. And again, when it's a closed fist, you don't really notice it anyways. Like so it's like you'd have to look down like the fist hole pretty much. And then it would just look like a peg, So that's a really clever form of engineering. And it really shows everything that we've just listed right there. It really shows how much this commander class is, and how it really is like this engineering platform for future figures. Like, if again we discussed, I don't think we post that segment yet, but we will post that segment. No, we didn't. We will post it soon, but we discussed, and it'll be in a future segment. It was a listener question about what could possibly done with the commander price point, and it looks like it's really going to be a platform for a whole bunch of like higher tier and higher end and larger characters. But yeah, that's pretty much it from the Siege standpoint.